to start. The start of my journey in this life. I was adopted from Korea when I was 6 months old. And then within that, with the whole situation there, with my birth family not wanting me, especially my father, that obviously it affected my mother's emotions, which then transferred to me in the womb. So I carried that spirit of rejection since the womb, really. But it wasn't until probably around like 6 or 7 where I actually I could actually like understand it intellectually more. And I guess the emotions I was feeling then was just like, why didn't you want me? Why wasn't I good enough? You know, what's wrong with me? And even though the parents that adopted me, they were a loving family. Obviously they weren't perfect because no one is, but even then I knew that intellectually that they loved me, but emotionally there was still this hole there. So it didn't really matter, like if they told me that they loved me and whatnot. I still just had this hole that couldn't be filled, and this desire to be wanted, I guess, by my blood parents. And so that really, I guess, set the tone for the rest of my life in a lot of ways, because I felt like I was an island, basically, on my own. I ended up getting into drugs and drinking at a very young age, about 12 years old. But it wasn't like it. There were fun times, don't get me wrong, but it never filled that hole in my heart, and that feeling of rejection. Eventually, I went to rehab when I was 17, and that's where like I first ran into gang members, and to me it felt like, man, they had like that love for each other, that community, that respect. They had each other's backs, and it was like that family that I've been craving, that acceptance that I've been craving. Even though that in itself is fake, and I can realize that now. It's very shallow, very superficial, but I came back and then got involved with gang members there. My big homie ended up getting locked up. My gang leader ended up getting locked up for murder. And through this whole time, with everything we were doing, all the activities and everything, God had his hand on me. Because there were a lot of situations that I was in that I should have been locked up, I should have caught a charge, should have been killed, but I wasn't. 2018, that's when I ran onto HungryGen and Pastor Vlad's podcast, and I was really interested. I had a hunger in my heart that I didn't know I had. That was the first time I learned about deliverance from demons, that Christians could be demonized, healing, like that was still a thing. It's not just in Acts kind of thing, like still happens today. And then in 2020, I got in a car accident in Seattle, Washington. I was T-boned at 45 miles an hour, and I should have died, and God saved me that day. I ended up in Harborview. I was so broken that I literally couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't walk, couldn't feed myself. And I just felt so vulnerable at that time because I was so used to doing things my way and being stubborn and hard-headed and being self-sufficient, or at least believing in the lie of self-sufficiency. And during that time when I was recovering, that's when I started to listen to Pastor Vlad's podcast more deeply. And I really started taking his advice of just like what to do. It wasn't just like I turned it on and it was kind of like white noise, kind of comforting white noise. It was like, no, I'd actually listen and like try to do what he was saying to do, because obviously like he knew something I didn't, and I wanted that because I knew I needed help. And I'd been through rehab, I'd been through AA, NA, like all the, worldly, like all the worldly fixers. I'd been on meds, but none of it was fixing the root of the problem, which was the rejection and from rejection stem bitterness, and then all the demonic branches that come with that, which is what led me down that path in my life in the first place. And so coming here, I got baptized and then delivered like within the next week or two past that from the spirit of rejection and the spirit of rage. And I just remember feeling at the time just like so much freedom, like this lightness just in my being that I hadn't had since like a very little kid. I remember when I was delivered, after I was delivered, I literally started weeping, and it was like tears of joy because I hadn't felt that in so long. It's like something was awakened within me. And since then, like during this internship, I keep trying to push in with God and keep getting delivered from more things, because deliverance is a process, as they say, by layers, like an onion, getting to the core of it. And yeah, this is the most peace I've felt ever in my life, and it's wonderful. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm just really looking forward to what God's going to continue to do in my life. My name is JP, and this is my testimony.